The Interstellar Research Group, formerly known as the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop, started from some surprising roots, one of which is the Friday Night Dinner Club.
Yeah, the Friday Night Dinner Club started, and I actually looked this up because it happened so long ago, around 2006. And the genesis was, my dad was caring for my mom, who was ill at the time. So he really couldn't get out. So we started going over to his place, and he started exploring cooking and, really kind of enjoyed it. So at first it was me and my wife, Martha, and then we would go over to my dad's house, and my mom was there, so it was the four of us. But then we invited other friends over because it was just a lot of fun, and that included Robert Kennedy and David Fields and others. And it got to be a pretty popular thing, a very enjoyable get together, each Friday. And even now, we still get together. The Friday night group gets together. We just got together last Friday over at John Rather's house. And yeah, it started out as a way to help my dad, provide some company for him, but it turned into a good social event. And again, the ringleaders, that's probably not the right term, but me, David Fields, Robert Kennedy, again, we were working on ideas, the solar sail idea. So there would be discussions about that there. And that instigated us to crystallize the idea and put it together in papers and his presentations. And again, I went to Albuquerque, and Robert went to Italy and gave his presentation there, along with some other ideas.
The formative event at which the first workshop was proposed was held in Aosta, Italy, and was an interstellar event itself.
The formative event was really another interstellar event. There is and had been for quite a while, a meeting held in Aosta, Italy, which is in the Alps, just outside of Torino. And it's a wonderful old city, dates back to about year 200, lots of Roman ruins around. And the International Academy of Astronautics every 2 years would hold a meeting there for the world's experts in, quote, ultra deep space missions. And that was their euphemism for interstellar missions, but they couldn't get approval to have an interstellar travel meeting. So they got approval to have an ultra deep space missions meeting.
Oh, I see.
So it was kind of fun. And I was presenting a paper. I'd been to a couple of the meetings. I was talking about work on solar sails and laser sails and how we might use those to go to the stars. The meeting was pretty exciting. The 100-year Starship program that was funded by DARPA had just been started in the US, headed up by Mae Jemison. And it's a kind of an international or national organization. And there was just a lot of energy in the air about things related to interstellar travel. So while we were at this wonderful meeting, and by the way, it was tough duty. I made great sacrifice to go to this meeting. I was talking with Gregory Matloff and Robert Kennedy, who lives not too far away up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I'm here in Huntsville, Alabama. The fact that there were these international meetings and it was tough for people to get to Italy for this meeting, and that Mae Jemison had her 100-year Starship, which was a national effort. And we were talking about the wealth of technical brainpower in the Tennessee Valley corridor. Between Oak Ridge and Knoxville, where the Tennessee River begins, it flows through Chattanooga, which is home of the Tennessee Valley Authority and all the engineers who keep the power grid in the Southeast up and running. Comes through Huntsville, where the Marshall Space Flight Center and U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Command are located. A lot of aerospace expertise, a lot of nuclear expertise, a lot of power and engineering expertise. And we said, just among our friends and acquaintances, there are a lot of people who would be interested in this topic. Why don't we get together and have a one-day workshop to just talk about what all the technologies are that people are working on in our little community to talk about interstellar travel. And Greg Matloff, who is the person who introduced me to this whole interstellar travel community and was the reason I was there in Aosta, was because Greg said, you have to come to this meeting. He was a part of the discussion and said, yes, if you do that, I'll come down from New York to be a part of it. So Robert and Greg and I kind of brainstormed it, and we went back home And that was when there were a series of discussions held with Robert was a member of a group of people in Oak Ridge that met on Friday nights, the Friday Night Supper Club. And they would talk about space and the future and things like that. And he got them excited about it. And they decided, let's do this. Let's start inviting people. We'll get a conference room at the hotel here in Oak Ridge and let's have a meeting. So that's how our first meeting was born. It was basically a result of brainstorming in a hotel in Italy that culminated in renting a banquet room in Oak Ridge. And we all got out our equivalent of the Rolodex, the electronic Rolodex, and invited friends and colleagues who would be interested in coming to such a meeting. And we had a meeting and it was great. That would be the first symposium. And we thought it would be the only symposium. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you, we had a really busy day, an exciting day. It was a great day. It was really, really awesome. But by 8 or 9 o'clock at night, I was personally exhausted. Mm-hmm. I did what I typically do. I'm kind of a convener and keep people on track. And so I was kind of the technical organizer for the talks and such. And I was back in the hotel room getting ready to wind down. My wife, Carol, was there with me. And there was a knock on the door. And so I went to the door. And if I remember correctly, it was one of the attendees, a woman named Carol Tevapal. Mm-hmm. And she said, Les, we've decided to reconvene. You need to come. Now I may have this memory maybe a little fuzzy of who it was or how it happened, but so I wasn't ready for bed yet, so I popped over. Carol came over, and the room was filled with all the people gathering that had been there all day. And it was called to order, and people looked at me and said, we need to do this again. This has got energy. We made progress. We need to do this again, make it a little bit more formal, invite more people, try to get some new data here. Let's make this something. And from that began the next workshop and the planning for it. So it really was never intended to be, the whole Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop was really never intended to be more than just a one-off. And it took a life of its own.
Is it significant that the IRG includes more than just engineers and scientists? Writers, philosophers, and lay people are included in the IRG, not just to learn, but to contribute.
I think it's very significant. What an engineer or a scientist could talk to you about is means of propulsion, means of deceleration, how thick the walls must be or the magnetic field must be to protect the complement of the crew if it's an inhabited ship from galactic cosmic radiation and things like that. You still have to have a real philosophy. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose of this? What's our motivations in doing this? What are the ramifications if we meet somebody? What happens if the universe is largely occupied? You know, we do know that most of the stars in the galactic vicinity of the sun are 1 billion years or more older than the sun. And we also know that there's a close approach between the sun and another star within a light year or so every 500,000 years. So there's been plenty of time, even making exceedingly conservative assumptions, for one galactic civilization to have occupied all or most of our galactic region. And so, you know, they may well be out there. We can't know this for certain. But certainly it's a real possibility. We can't rule it out. And how in the world do we respond to somebody 100 million years or 1 billion years in advance of us? Mm-hmm. I mean, I have no answers to this. It's also not impossible that we will find beings from our solar system. Jason Wright of Ohio State or University of Ohio, I forget which, did a paper a while ago, which he called the Silurian hypothesis. Mm-hmm. And basically it was an argument that it's not impossible that 100 million years ago or so, there might have been a technological civilization on this planet. And it might have, before the great extinction event in the Cretaceous, it might have moved out. We just don't know that. And detecting such a thing would be extremely difficult because I looked up the rates of fossilization And assuming that they last for 10,000 years, which is about 30 times longer than our technological civilization so far, how deep a layer would they be in the geological record? Something under a centimeter. That's pretty remarkable. How would we detect it? We know that plastics last for a long time, but 100 million years, I doubt it. Do any of the radioactive nuclides, would they give a signature for that long? I simply don't know. So, proving this or disproving this without looking for artifacts in space as might be impossible. We might have to look for artifacts on the moon, as in the movie 2001, among near-Earth asteroids, as Jim Benford has suggested, the main asteroid belt, as Mike Papagiannis talked about in the 80s, or I've talked about looking in the Kuiper belt. This is all geography, but certainly an artifact from an ancient civilization, either from deep space or the Earth, would have a much better chance of surviving in space than on the ground, on Earth.
Part of the fun of the Interstellar Research Group, and one of the reasons for its founding, is hypothesizing on the various methods of propulsion we might use to travel across space.
We have many propulsion schemes, but the ones I think electromagnetic has to be, it's not a propulsion scheme, it's a way of communicating at the speed of light. Communicating our essence as humanity, communicating our genetic coding. I think ultimately that may be the way we go to the stars. But for now, in terms of our current technology, possibly laser propelled or electromagnetically propelled small solar sails holds some promise. But there's a lot of stuff in empty space that is a barrier to physical objects transiting that space. It's doable. We can do it. Comets occasionally do it. Pieces of supernova do it. But it's not a friendly place. So I think in terms of physical objects, it should be electromagnetically propelled with algorithmic receivers and AI brains, and eventually our presence in other places will be through electromagnetic transmissions of our essence.
The name Interstellar Research Group, originally called the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop, developed after much discussion inside the group. It's a name specifically chosen to be less regional and more international.
I guess the origins of what was in the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop really came about from two different groups, one in Huntsville, Alabama, and one in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And the search was who decided to wanted to do meetings and discussions about this topic, interstellar travel. And to connect both of those and still keep it regional, they said, well, let's see, Tennessee Valley is a term that spans that distance. And also, at that time, these same groups had a lot to do with other cons of different kinds that were going on that were happening in Chattanooga and Atlanta. And so it just encompassed those as well. So just to fit between the Huntsville and Oak Ridge envelope geographically.
Okay. And the new name, Interstellar Research Group, how did that come about, do you reckon?
Oh boy, that was at the end of a lot of discussions. The TVIW worked pretty well for several years, but Les and others wanted to expand it beyond the Tennessee Valley, encompass other groups around the country. And so it seemed too colloquial when you started to go talk to people in Texas and Colorado and California California and other places like that. I said, well, that's just a parochial group, what are you doing here? And it was seemed to be limiting to what was going on, but there was, we talked and talked and talked month after month. Every time we had a quarterly meeting, we would throw out half a dozen different names, and we had a hard time finding one that would be inclusive enough, but still we also tried to retain the TVIW identity because that's how it was built. We wanted to keep that same momentum and base going. So, that's just really just how it evolved. We really wanted to get beyond just seeming parochial.
Science fiction has often been an important part of pushing humanity farther into the realm of science reality. The passion behind scientists, engineers, chemists, and others in their respective fields contributing to the future of interstellar travel often starts with a question or a curiosity. Why am I here? What can I do? Just how far can I go? Science fiction can play a huge role in inspiring people, especially here at the Interstellar Research Group.
We based our structure on the science fiction conventions that a lot of us went to, based things like we all pay. Nobody is paid. We are all volunteers. And, we pay to come to these symposia because we're all in this together. That was the big thing. Things like a hospitality suite. You've been to science fiction conventions, there's always the con suite, and it's really nice. But we did want to have some place for people to come and to be able to, get off in a corner and talk to each other and meet the pros, if you will. If there was somebody who had spoken that you really wanted to talk to, the con suite or the hospitality suite is the place to go. The banquet got started because we had one of our biggest supporters said, you need to do this. And we said, okay, how do we do this? He said, well, here's money. Here, throw money at it, And we said, okay, we can do this. And that became a big part of things too. We haven't always done a banquet, but I'm glad we started that part of it.
Okay. How deeply involved was Bain Books and Tony Weisskopf, Bain's publisher?
He's been a supporter of our educational arm. She was all in with this. She just thinks this is a great idea. And the second, and I think the third symposia, she sponsored the opening reception. And she has always supported. And when we started the scholarship program 5 years ago, she was like, yes, count me in. I am so there. And she has sponsored the graduate scholarship ever since. And after Tim Bolgio died, it became the Tim Bolgio Memorial Scholarship.
For those unfamiliar with Tim Bolgio, he's of course the founder and longtime head of the LibertyCon.
Right. Yes.
In Chattanooga, Tennessee. Yeah. The Interstellar Research Group has affected many lives all around the globe. Sometimes we even get the privilege of hearing about it.
I think at the third symposium, one of the people that had been to all of them came up and said, you got to hear what this guy has to say. And this guy was new. He'd never been here before. He said, this is amazing. This is like Club Med for nerds. I thought, yeah, okay. I have made a place for nerds.
Okay.
To come and contribute and feel good about it and have fun. We created something. It should be fun to everybody.
The Interstellar Research Group has grown into more than just a place for a few friends to meet. It has become a place of community, family, friends, innovation. a way for us as the human race to plan and then build this important aspect of our future. On behalf of everyone at the Interstellar Research Group, I thank you. May we continue growing and eventually find our place among the stars.